The Sweetest Gem by the Rarispy. Part 3. Chapter 7. Spike's Choice. The second day.
Sorry again about your studio, Miss Scratch. I guess our special talent isn't being all wild with the recording equipment,
said an apologetic Applebloom.
Oh, it's no sweat, girls,
Vinyl Scratch reassured, as she led the duo out of her studio.
Color me crazy, but I didn't think you were gonna cut it either. It's not that you two don't got the talent, it's just,
she said, scratching her vibrant blue mane.
You know, I can't really think of a good way to put this.
We stink, that's how you could put it, said Scootaloo. Are you sure you're not mad about your studio?
Oh, it's not that bad,
said Vinyl, glancing back at her mess of a studio inside.
Actually, it kind of looks like it does after I've had my awesome Saturday night jam sessions.
Well, minus the short-circuiting synthesizers. A loud bzz and crackle sounded from inside.
And some of the shattered windows.
And the broken cello. Tavy's gonna kill me for that one. She turned back to the worried-looking girls again.
Don't worry, I'll have this all cleaned up in a jiff. Just go on and do whatever it is you guys usually do around here.
Okay, said Applebloom, as they both started to walk off.
Bye, Miss Scratch.
See you later, said Scootaloo.
Catch you around,
Vinyl called back, slipping on her tinted sunglasses.
Feel free to come back any time. Just, please don't crank anything up to 11 anymore.
And with that, she closed the door.
Well, you know what? Who would want a cutie mark in music anyway?
Applebloom stated proudly.
Right, Scootaloo?
Yeah, sure, replied Scootaloo.
Or at least a singing cutie mark. The more I think about it, a special talent in singing just sounds boring.
A little while later, the two crusaders lay down on a grassy field in the outskirts of Ponyville, watching the sky.
I know! We could always try hang gliding. Hang gliding could be fun,
Applebloom suggested. Scootaloo just shook her head.
No, we tried paragliding last week, and that's pretty much the same thing.
Oh. Got any ideas, Sweetie Belle? Scootaloo asked, with a raised eyebrow, looking at the nothingness to her right. They sighed heavily. Forget it. Maybe we should just do the construction idea. Just then, several bouquets of flowers landed in between them, making them both sit up in surprise.
Fear not, Crusaders, because today's the day we're going to get our cutie marks in, making flower copters.
The filly's voice cracked on the last word, emitting a happy gasp from Applebloom and Scootaloo. They turned around to see their fellow purple-maned crusader standing over them with a determined look on her face and a hoof raised proudly in the air.
Sweetie Belle!
Something about the Canterlot sculpture garden felt even creepier when no one else was around, Spike noticed. Just looking at some of the tall and intimidating statues of ponies, both brave and fierce, sent chills up his spines. But he had still come here for a reason.
Canterlot is such a big city. Ponies are busy on every street and in every place. And with Twilight and her parents still talking it up in our room, this garden is the only place where I can be alone. To think.
Looking to his right, he saw that they were still hard at work rebuilding the palace labyrinth, which had been previously reduced to a rut by a certain malevolent spirit of chaos and disharmony. The same malevolent spirit that now stood as the centerpiece of the garden, frozen in a form of pure stone by the elements of harmony. His arms both jutted out, and his head was twisted to the right, his face a permanent expression of pure shock and disbelief. Discord's statue loomed over Spike as he found a bench to sit on. Having found the perfect place to start contemplating, he pulled out 2 drawings. They were the same 2 drawings that helped Spike realize the nature of his feelings the night before.
Rarity. Sweetie Belle. How did this happen? I've had all my love going to Rarity ever since I first met her in Ponyville. But I've never felt the same thing for Sweetie Belle. So why am I only now starting to see her in a different way? My dreams have always been about Rarity, but the dreams I've been having lately, both Rarity and Sweetie Belle are in them. They're both the fair princess I'm trying to save, especially in last night's dream. A dark red teenage dragon is seen falling into a volcano, a pool of lava waiting for him down below. "I'll get you yet, Spike Wong!" he yelled as he descended. "Ha! I'd like to see you try," responded Spike, whom was now a much taller and slender dragon, and bearing a black belt karate uniform. "Ah! Spike! Help!" cried two ponies. Upon hearing these two cries for help, Spike rushed to the volcano's edge, but he was stunned at what he saw next. At the edge of the volcanic cliff over the bubbling lava, there were not one, but two fair maidens clinging for their lives, both desperately looking at Spike to save them. "What? But I can't save both of them." "Spike, hurry! Save me!" called Sweetie Belle. "No, save me!" said Rarity. "I still have whole worlds to see with you, Spiky Wikey." "Hey, that's not fair! You know I can't swim, Rarity." "Oh, it's completely fair, little sister," said Rarity, sneering at her. "You'll understand it better when you're older." "But if I fall, then I'm never going to be older," Sweetie angrily responded. "And besides, Spike loves me more." "That is not true. He loved me first. Whoa! Whoa!" They were both quickly losing their grip, and Spike had to act fast. He only had time to save one of them. "But which one? How do I choose?" After a few seconds of panicked thinking, he closed his eyes and rushed out towards the cliff, and managed to grab one hoof. As he slowly opened his eyes, he saw that he was grasping one white-colored hoof, whilst a loud scream sounded from below. "Too bad Twilight had to wake me up before I could see who it was I saved in that dream," he sighed. Not like it would even matter. Getting up off of the bench, he turned towards the statue of Discord, as if he was being magically drawn to it. He gazed up at the stone-encased Draconequus, and started scratching his head. What is this supposed to be a statue of again? I feel like I've seen that creature somewhere before. "Hey, can I ask you something?" he asked the statue. "I can't just keep thinking to myself, and who better to talk to than a statue? After all, it can't answer me back. You see, I have a bit of a problem. The thing is, well, I have a crush on some pony. Actually, two crushes." Discord didn't respond. "See, there's this one pony, right? Her name's Rarity." He shivered up upon mentioning her name, as if a strange chill had just emitted from the statue. "And I've loved her for a really long time, ever since I first met her, but I think I'm starting to have a crush on another pony. Now, here's the funny part." He started to break into a chuckle. "Get ready for this one. The other pony is her little sister." The statue remained silent. "So, the thing I want to know is, what should I do? Because, I still love Rarity, but because Sweetie's her sister and lives with her, I always see both of them at the same place, and she likes to talk to me a lot too. It's just so hard for me to know what to do, and... what am I doing? I'm talking to a statue. I bet you can't even hear me." He scoffed at the statue and began to walk away, until suddenly... "Now what makes you think I can't hear you?" Spike's eyes shot wide open. "You know, just because I'm a statue doesn't mean that I'm deaf, you naive little dragon." Spike looked in all directions, except behind him. His eyes were still wide with shock. The voice sounded like an echo inside his head. "Who? But it can't be." "That's right. I'm talking to you, Spike." What? But how does... "That is your name, isn't it? Spike the little baby dragon. Twilight Sparkle's faithful assistant. Oh, I know all about you, Spike. Ever observant around the library. Your eyes don't miss anything under the right pressure. Well,
except for some of the most obvious things right in front of you.
What do you mean?
Spike asked the voice. What do I mean? Well, you did come to ask me for advice about your decision, but I'm not sure whether I should tell you and spoil all the fun.
No, please tell me, he said desperately.
Very well then, but I'll only answer you in my way. All of a sudden, the drawings of Rarity and Sweetie Belle flew out of Spike's hands and transformed into translucent images of the two ponies right before his eyes. They both started to spin around him rapidly, while still constantly facing him. Spike closed his eyes and grabbed his head as the dizziness of watching them spin around took in. As he did, the voice in his head spoke again, in both Rarity and Sweetie Belle's voices.
I have heard your lament and listened as you deeply reflected. Your mind racks and baffles while your heart lies split in two. You might find that to her, your heart's desire remains rejected, but set those phasers to hug, because she shares quite the eye for you.
When Spike opened his eyes, he was lying on the ground, and the projections of Rarity and Sweetie had turned back into crayon drawings. The sculpture garden now seemed eerily quiet. Spike stood up, shivering now.
Well, what was that all about? Was that...
He finally ate up the courage to turn around and glance at Discord's statue. He instantly looked perplexed when he saw it. It was silent once again, but to Spike, a couple of things seemed odd about it.
He looks different. Like he was standing in a different way than when I was looking at him a few seconds ago. And, wait a minute. That crack on his arm, has that always been there? Spike! Spike! Called Twilight's voice. Spike, are you in here? Ah! I'm right here, Spike called back. Well, come on. My parents are really anxious to talk to you. Yeah, I'm coming, he grumbled. He picked up the drawings and started to run back, but as he did, he kept thinking and glancing at his drawings. I still wish I had the answer. Which one? He took off too fast to notice as the crack on Discord's arm slowly extended for a moment. It protruded slightly further across his lion-like appendage, while a soft chuckle echoed in the field around. A long day in Ponyville was finally coming to the end, as the sun lay barely visible above the horizon. Carousel Boutique cast a large shadow as the Crusaders approached it in their wagon and scooter. See you in class tomorrow, Sweetie Belle, Scootaloo called before they left. Yeah, said Sweetie, who then stopped to yawn. See you tomorrow. Her walking was slow, as her whole body was feeling heavy now, especially her head. Her mane drooped down in front of her face, slightly disheveled from some of the antics Sweetie and her fellow Crusaders had participated in. Her squinted, baggy eyelids indicated a severe tiredness, as did her lowly hanging head, and another subsequent yawn. Man, what a long day! They must have been really excited to have me back after 2 whole days of not being with them. But now, I just can't wait to jump into bed and go to sleep. I sure hope Miss Cheerilee likes the big heart. We sure put a lot of effort into it. Too bad I don't have any cards to give to any pony for Hearts and Hooves Day. Most of my classmates have a special some pony, or some pony that they really like. But I don't. Certainly not Spike. Catching herself, she shook her head violently. But with how tired she was, this served to give her a minor headache. Ow! No, I promised myself I wasn't going to think about Spike anymore. I'm not in love with him. There's no crush. I don't have a special sun pony, and I'm not going to have one until I'm older. Ow, now my head really hurts. When she walked into the boutique and into Rarity's room, the first thing she noticed was how dark it was in there. Rarity had shut the blinds, blocking off any light from brightening up the room. Her room itself was in a state of disarray, as spools of thread and drapes of clothing lay around the floor.
Finally, Rarity herself was slumped over on her sewing desk next to the machine, snoozing softly as a puddle of drool coated the table around her mouth.
I guess she's had a busy day too,
Sweetie thought to herself. She then realized something.
Oh, now she's going to give me a big fuss tomorrow morning about being out for so long tonight. Oh well.
She walked over to her older sister and gave her a gentle hug and a kiss on the cheek.
Good night, sis,
she whispered.
Sweet dreams.
After she closed the door behind her, Rarity snorted and began to mutter in her sleep.
Sweetie, we need to talk.
Oh my, this is indeed a most marvelous night. The Princess of the Night gazed upon the night sky that she had decorated a mere hour ago. The stars all twinkled in the sky as they created constellations and covered the sky in light. Her moon proudly floated in the center of the sky, casting its own special light down upon Canterlot. Feel free to remain at the doors, she motioned to her guards. I'm just going to take a lone stroll around the royal garden for a few minutes. You got it, Princess, one of the two guards said, as they both took their positions. By this time, most of the different animals habiting the garden were asleep, save for the bats. There you are, winged mammals of the night, my favorite of all animals, said Princess Luna, as she let one of the bats perch on her hoof. All the other animals must undoubtedly be jealous. They have to sleep and fulfill their rest during this time, but you lucky things have the honor of accompanying me as I walk. Eventually, she was so overtaken by the sights of the garden that her walking started to break into a trot. However, she stopped cold when she spotted a figure at the fountain that centered the garden. Who goes there? She shouted, scaring away the bats. Ah! The figure was so startled that it fell into the fountain water. Luna ran up to the fountain to get a closer look. One of her guards, having been alerted by Luna's sudden cry, also ran over. After a few seconds, Spike popped up from the water, gasping for air.
You are Spike, is that correct?
His heart still racing, he nodded at a quick pace.
I recall meeting you in Ponyville on the night of Nightmare Night. You were dressed then as a small purple dragon-like creature, which is a tad redundant in itself, we must admit, she chuckled, before whispering something to her guard. The guard ran back towards the castle. If I am not mistaken, you and Twilight Sparkle are staying here at the castle for the week, are you not?
Well, Twilight is, said Spike. I'm only here until the day after tomorrow.
Ah, so we see, she replied. My apologies for startling you, she continued.
Luna's guard returned with a towel for Spike, which he accepted. She then returned to her position at the garden entrance.
I wasn't aware that you had been granted permission from my sister to roam our private garden.
Spike looked around nervously and motioned for her to come closer.
Between you and me, I didn't ask anybody if I could come here. I actually kind of snuck in here on my own. Oh, fear not. Your secret is safe with us, she whispered.
Spike drooped his head down in sadness. It was at this moment that Luna noticed Spike had been grasping 2 flowers.
Forgive me for asking, Spike, but is something troubling you?
Well, actually, yeah, kind of. He looked around.
Princess, can you keep another secret, just between the two of us? This is quite a sizable amount of information that we must keep under wraps. From whom are we withholding this secret from? I.
Well, just Twilight, really.
Oh, she said with a sigh of relief. Well, that shouldn't be too hard.
Okay, well... He started twiddling his fingers, unsure of how to explain himself.
You see, I've had this crush on a pony that I've known for a really long time, since I first met her. Her name's Rarity. We are most confused, Luna interrupted. You say you crushed a pony? Why wouldst thou do such a cruel thing? Did it hurt this Rarity. Huh? Oh, no, no, not like that, Spike hastily said, waving his hands in front of him. What I mean is, I've been in love with her. Oh, that sounds much less painful. Yeah, like I was saying, I've had my heart set on her ever since I first met her. Up till now, I thought that we were soulmates, and that I was destined to eventually charm her, and spend the rest of my life with her, resting in my arms. Oh, Rarity. He was falling into a daydream, but he was snapped out of it by the sight of Luna staring at him. Anyway, but the problem is, something happened. You see, her little sister Sweetie Belle moved in with her a while ago, after their parents moved to Philadelphia. She really likes to talk to me, not sure why, and just, I don't know. I've had these weird feelings for her, ever since she gave me this really cool ocean sapphire gem. I, I think I might be in love with her now, too. And so, I don't know what to do. He lied down on the fountain and gazed up at the moon. I don't know who I love more. How do I choose? I thought Rarity would be the only love, but Sweetie is so nice and has always been such a really great friend to me. Either way, I think I would feel really bad. After a minute of processing everything Spike had just told her, Luna smiled at him and broke into a giggle. I- I'm confused, Spike said, sitting up and turning to her again. What's so funny? My apologies. It's just your dilemma makes me reminisce of an old apprentice of mine. Her name was Lilac Candescence. She closed her eyes and smiled in remembrance. Something puzzled Spike. Is that a tear? She faced a problem not unlike yours. She found herself infatuated with one of the royal guards, Silver Helmet, as well as the local bookkeeper, Sepia Tone. What happened? He asked. For a while, she was confident that her heart was set on Silver Helmet, but I theorized that she had some sort of unique encounter with Sepia Tone, because eventually she confided in me, in this same spot, that she was having second thoughts. Wow, said Spike. So what did you say? Luna gazed up to the night sky and prompted Spike to do the same. I told her, look into the stars, Lilac, for the stars hold the answers. Just gaze up at them, and everything will become clear. She started to cry. I asked if she was sad, but she wasn't. She left the castle, and I watched as she ran to Sepia Tone's house, to tell him how she felt, and to ask him to dinner. Spike was spellbound. He was still gazing at the stars, but now he was looking at them more intently. They ended up getting married shortly after that, and they were happy. Oh, I do miss that Lilac sometimes. Luna dusted herself off and turned the other way. I do apologize, but I should return to my quarters now. I hope I was of great help. Bye, Princess, said Spike, and thanks for the advice. Oh, and Spike, she said, turning around. Yeah? Thank you for this lovely talk. I do not have the chance to relax and have a sincere talk like this with another pony very often. Or dragon, in this instance. You're welcome, said Spike. He gazed up at the stars after she left. Well, it took a few minutes, but I think it's much clearer now. Chapter 8. Talk. The third day. The bell tower above the Ponyville schoolhouse rung proudly, signaling the end of another school day for Ponyville's young fillies and colts. But of course, today was a special day for Cheerilee's class. All right, my little ponies, class is over, and now you can start exchanging the cards and gifts that you all got each other for Hearts and Hooves days. Cheerilee's classroom was a vibrant scene of excitement and surprises, as the students all celebrated in the love and friendship of Hearts and Hooves Day. Dinky Doo and Pipsqueak were seen exchanging cards with one another, and then embracing with a hug.
Ruby Pinch had brought a special present for an excited Truffle Shuffle. The Cutie Mark Crusaders had gone out to their lockers to bring in their special gift for Cheerilee, while Silver Spoon was near the door, tapping her hoof impatiently. "Ugh," she groaned. "How long does it take to Philly to use the bathroom? We need to ditch this lame scene." Excuse me, Silver Spoon." She responded to a tapping on her back to see Rumble, the younger brother of a lazy Pegasus Thunder Lane, clutching a card in his hoof. I was just wondering if you wanted—" But she interrupted him by swatting the card away. "Ugh! Get that thing out of my face!" Rumble began to walk away with his head down. Silver gritted her teeth and sighed. "Fine, let's see it." And so, Rumble excitedly picked it up with his mouth and handed it to her. Meanwhile, the Crusaders finally finished dragging in their large papier-mâché heart made for Cheerilee. It was painted pink on the front and back, with red on the sides. White lace bordered the big heart, and a streamer rendering of Cheerilee adorned the front corner, along with some confetti. Once they brought it in front of an astonished Cheerilee, the Crusaders quickly stood next to the heart to present it. Applebloom and Scootaloo both had beaming grins, whilst Sweetie Belle looked like she was trying to put on her best fake smile. "Why, girls," said Cheerilee, with stars in her eyes. "This is amazing. You three made this all by yourselves?" "We sure did," Scootaloo replied. "We told you before. It's to show you how much we appreciate you as our teacher," added Applebloom. "You deserve this super special gift because you're the best teacher ever." "Yeah," said Sweetie, a little less enthusiastically than Applebloom and Scootaloo. This drew curious glances from them. "Oh, girls, you flatterers," said Cheerilee. "I love it. This is even better than the heart you made me last year. And, a lot better than what you tried to give Big Mac and I that day," she reflected. said Sweetie, as the three of them all looked down sheepishly. "Thank you so much for this, girls." How odd. Sweetie Belle usually bugs me about my special sun pony on Hearts and Hooves Day. I guess what happened last year finally made her realize. The girls walked aside to let Cheerilee be alone with her gift. At the same time, Silver Spoon was now intently reading Rumble's card, her cheeks blushing. She was even beginning to crack a smile. However, Diamond Tiara then reappeared, and Silver Spoon hastily shoved the card back to Rumble and nudged him away, now blushing with embarrassment. "There you are. Now let's go. All this Hearts and Hooves Day junk is gonna make me retch." "Hold on," Diamond Tiara replied. "There's something I need to do first." Scootaloo and Applebloom glanced at each other, and then at Sweetie Belle, who was looking down and kicking up at the ground. Both of them could easily tell that something was wrong. "Hey, Sweetie Belle," said Applebloom. "Rarity wasn't too mad about y'all coming home late, was she?" "Huh?" Sweetie replied. "Oh, no. I mean, she was a little mad at me this morning, and she gave me her usual, 'Sweetie Belle, you had me worried sick. Next time you need to come home before it gets dark so I don't have to worry about you.' Same old, same old." After a few moments of silence, Scootaloo decided to break the tension. "Sweetie Belle, is something wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, okay?" She turned herself away from them, signaling that she didn't want to talk about it any further. "Why did Hearts and Hooves Day have to come now? I'm trying to forget about this stupid crush for Spike, and seeing every pony with cards and flowers and special sun ponies and stuff sure isn't helping. Why won't it go away? I still feel like I'm in love with Spike. How long do I have to ignore my feelings in order for things to go back to normal?" She turned to face her friends again. "I guess it's just because I haven't received any special gifts or anything from any of our friends. That's all." "Aw, that's nothing to be ashamed of," said Applebloom. "Scootaloo and I haven't gotten anything from our friends either." "Yeah," added Scootaloo, "so we can all be unloved together." Applebloom was about to rebuke, until Scootaloo felt a tap on her back. She turned around to see Featherweight behind her, looking very twitterpated. He was sweating heavily, and his hooves were trembling. He was carrying a blue card in his wing.
Hi, Featherweight. What's up?
Featherweight quickly handed the card to her and dashed away, leaving her astonished. Curiously, she opened up the card. The writing on it was so small that she had to squint her eyes in order to read it.
I love you.
Scootaloo drew back and put her hoof to her mouth as her cheeks flushed intensely. Applebloom took a peek at the card and began to snicker at her. Scootaloo awkwardly started rubbing her hair.
Hey, Applebloom,
Diamond Tiara said as she approached them.
What do you want, Diamond Tiara?
Said Applebloom dully after she stopped snickering.
Here to tease us because Sweetie and I haven't gotten anything? Normally, I would do that, but...
She gave a heavy sigh.
Look, Daddy said I wouldn't get any allowance this week if I didn't make a card for at least one pony. The thing is, all of the boys in this class disgust me, and if I gave them anything, they'd be all over me. Don't want any of that.
Applebloom rolled her eyes.
So, here.
Much to Applebloom's surprise, Diamond Tiara tossed a card her way, which she caught in her hooves and began to read.
Don't think it means anything, though. You're still a loser,
she remarked as she went to join Silver Spoon. Despite this rude gesture, Applebloom still found herself blushing. Scootaloo shot a grin at her, and she responded with a sheepish shrug. Sweetie Belle huffed, directing their attention back to her again. Scootaloo decided to change the subject.
So, do you have any pony to give a special surprise to, Sweetie Belle? I already gave a card to Rumble.
Yeah, said Applebloom.
And I gave Twist a big old candy cane. How about you?
But despite their best efforts, Sweetie began to walk towards the entrance, her eyes still to the floor.
No, Pony. You guys are my only friends, and I don't have a special Sun Pony. And now, I'm starting to think I never will. Sweetie Belle, Scootaloo called, where are you going?
And that's when her patience finally wore thin, as all of the frustration and heartbreak she had been trying to bottle up the past couple of days finally resurfaced.
I'm going home, okay?
She harshly shouted at them, her voice cracking to an extreme degree. Tears were welling up in her eyes.
Where no pony has to see me for the alone and unloved freak that I am!
She then ran out of the schoolhouse, leaving Applebloom, Scootaloo, Cheerilee, and the entire class stunned, their mouths agape and their eyes wide with shock. Even Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon had their jaws hanging as they watched the filly scamper away, crying harder and harder the more she ran. Sweetie immediately noticed that something was wrong as she approached her home, her eyes still red and her cheeks wet. The curtains were all draped over the windows, and Sweetie saw a peculiar sign on one of the windows.
Closed?
She observed, wiping her eyes and face.
But why would it be closed? Rarity never closes on a Wednesday.
Things got even stranger when she stepped inside. The door creaked as she slowly opened it. She stepped into the house to see an unusual sight. The foyer was miraculously clean. It was typically cluttered with dress materials and other such objects. But today, the floor was cleared and everything was neatly piled on various tables. A stack of 6 finished dresses were neatly hung on a rack and tucked away into a corner. And standing at the center of the room was Rarity herself. She was facing the door, as if she had been standing there calmly, waiting for Sweetie Belle to arrive.
Hello, Sweetie Belle,
she said blankly.
Hi, sis. How was school today? Great,
she answered nervously.
What's going on here? Hey, you finished all your dresses. Indeed I did,
Rarity replied.
I tried to get them done as fast as I possibly could. Really?
Sweetie was starting to sweat again.
What does she want? Why does she keep staring at me like that? Why? Is something wrong? Actually, there is, Rarity replied, her blank expression suddenly becoming a determined one. There's something I've been trying to get done all week, and today's the day I'm finally going to do it. There's no escaping me now, my little sister. What are you talking about? Sweetie asked, her hooves trembling. Rarity, what's going on? Sweetie Ophelia Belle. Her eyes went wide. She only uses my full name when she's being really serious. We need to talk. Talk? What about? Sweetie asked, crouching down in fear. Now, Sweetie Belle, please don't play any games with me any more, said Rarity, walking straight over to her. But I thought you loved playing games with me, she rebuted. You always look like you're having fun when we play attack boats or hide and seek or a line 5. That's not what I mean, sweetums, said Rarity with a face-off. Listen, do you remember the other day when you confided in me about your friend whom you said had a crush on one of her other friends? Yeah? Sweetie replied after a few seconds, finally starting to realize what this was all about. At this point, Rarity dropped her up-frontal approach and gently crouched down to be on eye level with her sister, and began using a much gentler tone. Sweetie Belle, it's not actually a friend of yours, but rather you who is in love. Am I right? She hesitated to answer. She even scrunched up her lips, trying to remain silent. Sweetums, she whispered, please, you don't have to be afraid. It's okay. I'm your sister, and I will always love you, no matter what. You know that. Verity gently nuzzled Sweetie's mane, until Sweetie immediately began crying profusely into her sister's chest. She had been hiding her tears from Rarity for a while, and now she finally had the chance to let all her sadness stream through. Yes, yes, she replied in between tears. It is me. I made up the whole friend thing. It's me who has a crush, sis. It's me. It's me. It's me. Rarity embraced her sister tight, tears beginning to fall down her cheeks. It's okay now, sweetums. It's okay. She continued to let Sweetie cry into her shoulder for a good number of minutes, until eventually the filly's tears finally started to dry up, and she lifted her head to look at her big sister. Do you feel better now, Sweetie Belle? A lot better, she answered, her voice still shaky. Relieved now, am I right? Sweetie nodded in response. Now you no longer have to be so secretive about your feelings for Spike. Yeah, I guess so. Wait a minute. She suddenly pulled herself away from Rarity and stared at her with wide eyes. How did you know I was in love with Spike? Rarity put both hooves over her mouth as she realized her mistake. Oops, that was a mistake. What am I supposed to do? I can't tell her that I was eavesdropping on her. I just gained her trust back. I don't want to lose it again. Well, well, because I heard you saying his name in your sleep. Yes, and after seeing you generously hand that ocean blue sapphire to him after our earlier talk about your friend, well, I just put two and two together, she lied, chuckling nervously. Rarity? Yes, Sweetie Belle? It was Rarity's turn to be nervous now. This is it. She's going to call my bluff. Way to go, Rarity. I'm really sorry I didn't tell you before that I had a crush on Spike. Oh, that's all right, dear sister, said Rarity, with a breath of relief. Though, I am a bit curious now. Why did you keep your affections a secret from me in the first place? Well, it's actually kind of silly, Sweetie Belle responded, feeling much more comfortable. You see, I thought that if I told you I was in love with some pony, you were going to make a big deal about it. And then you were going to put me in a fancy dress and make me and Spike have a romantic dinner together or something.
Rarity gasped.
Why, Sweetie Belle, what an excellent idea! Exactly. Wait, what?
Rarity immediately began running towards the cabinet in her back room.
That's just exactly what I was going to propose. Oh, if only that dress I had made for you hadn't gone missing.
Now looking incredibly fearful, Sweetie tried to make a break for the front door, but just before she reached the knob,
Oh, my stars! This is amazing! The dress! It's back again!
Rarity rushed back to her, levitating the blue dress in tow. As she rambled, she fit the dress onto her younger sister, despite her resistance.
Now granted, Spike is still in Canterlot with Twilight until tomorrow, but there is still time for you to practice. Oh, this will all be so romantic. I can set the two of you up on a blind date at the Plaquet de Pâté pour le Pony restaurant on the fancy side of town. You two will get caught in the moment, staring into each other's eyes as the violinist plays a song of passion. Spike will finally realize what he had been missing all along, and you'll be fully content and gushing tears of hope as she finally...
But all her aloud planning and daydreaming ceased when she opened her eyes again and looked at Sweetie Belle. She was cowering against the wall, fearfully looking up at her sister. She was shaking heavily, and sweat trickled down her face, and her pupils had shrunken in pure terror.
Please, no,
she stammered. She put her hoof over her face and squinted hard, trembling even harder. And all at once, Rarity had an epiphany.
Oh, my word! She's terrified. The poor child is cowering. From me.
She looked at her sister, and at the dress she had just forced onto her, and then she realized just how close she had been leaning her face towards her.
Sweet Celestia! Rarity, what are you doing? You can't just rush her into such an escapade like this. She's only a little filly, who still has but the smallest inkling of what love even is. And here I am, trying to take full advantage of this situation and man the helm on my own. This is why she tried to hide her feelings for Spike. Because this isn't what she wants. No, this is what she's been fearing all along.
Rarity stood there for a minute, completely dead silent, still leaning in close to Sweetie.
Rarity?
She uttered, her voice and body still trembling. All of a sudden, Rarity embraced her sister again and began crying, just as Sweetie had done mere minutes ago, much to the younger sister's pure shock. Rarity's crying noises were much louder and more pronounced than Sweetie Belle's, keeping in tune with her infamous penchant for acting overly dramatic with her emotions.
Oh, Sweetie Belle, my dear sister, I am so sorry,
Rarity pleaded.
I don't know what I'm doing. I wasn't thinking straight. Of course this isn't what you want. What was I thinking? I'm sorry. Can you ever find it in your heart to forgive me?
Sweetie had been rendered speechless by Rarity's sudden change of behavior, and struggled to find a way to respond. After a few moments, Rarity looked up to her with a wide puppy-eyed look and pouting lips. It was then that Sweetie finally found her voice again.
Of course I can forgive you,
Sweetie said, returning the hug.
You're my sister, Rarity, and I love you too.
Both sisters were crying now, but they were mutual tears of happiness, relief, warmth, and sisterly love.
If we had just been honest with each other the whole time,
Rarity thought aloud.
I know,
Sweetie chimed in.
Now I wish I had told you sooner. Oh, my sister, I just don't know why I would...
But then she stopped and made a loud gasp.
Of course! The books!
Huh? Replied Sweetie.
The books!
Rarity's mind flashed to the bookshelf that stood in the corner of her bedroom, and all the romance novels that filled its shelves, minus the ones that Sweetie had borrowed recently.
My romance novels! They are the true culprits behind this love catastrophe.
How so? Sweetie replied again.
Those fictionalized accounts of amour and liaison have been nothing but trouble. Their evil strokes of literary passion have been corrupting my mind this entire time, wrapping my perceptions on what it truly means to love and be loved. They taught me that the first flirt was a big fuss, and should be treated with the utmost careful planning. But they were wrong. Love is something that's natural and to be cherished. I've been blind this whole time. It took my little sister to realize that. Sweetie Belle, I've been a fool. I've been relying on some dumb old books to teach me what amour is instead of letting my own heart guide me.
She began to giggle to herself.
Well, how ironic. I'm always telling Twilight that books aren't the answer for everything. What a massive hypocrite I've turned out to be. Rarity? Yes, Sweetums?
She looked up to Rarity with big eyes.
What do I do now? About Spike, I mean. Ah, yes. All that aside, what have you been doing about Spike as of late? Well...
She shifted her hoof on the floor.
Not much, really. In fact, I've kind of been trying to forget about him. Oh, sweetie, you mustn't do that,
Rarity exclaimed, extending both of her hooves to her.
Just because Spike has been absent, that doesn't mean you should try to pretend the feelings aren't there. You have to take action and show him how you feel. And besides...
She gave her sister a knowing smirk.
I can tell that you've been trying to do that already. What do you mean? Oh, come on now, sweetie. First, several of my aforementioned novels turn up missing, and then the dress I had specially made for you vanishes too.
She took a sniff to the dress, and her face twisted up.
And now it's reeking of sweat since it reappeared. Did you honestly think I wasn't eventually going to put two and two together? Of course, I didn't fit all the pieces together until just now, but still. Yeah, I kind of tried to borrow the dress without you noticing, and I was going to tell you about your books,
Sweetie explained, chuckling in embarrassment.
You see, I kind of talked to Fluttershy, and she told me that I had to be more anonymous or something like that. So I was going to use the dress to try to make Spike love me back without telling him. He was already gone, though.
Rarity contemplated this revelation, not noticing how distant Sweetie became around the end of her explanation.
She talked to Fluttershy about her crush? Before me, even? That's a tad puzzling. I wasn't aware Fluttershy even had the slightest inkling about love and passion. Anonymous. Hold on, that's it! Idea! She exclaimed. Sweetie Belle, I know exactly what to do. What is it? She asked excitedly. Tell me.
Rarity started searching through her drawers.
Now, your idea was on the right track. It will take some extra effort to make Spike notice you when he's already trying to direct all his affection towards me and... Wait! Sweetie suddenly shouted. You mean even you knew that Spike had a crush on you? Oh, Petunia, not again. Curse you, you slippery tongue. Ugh, come on, Sweetie grunted. Did every pony know about this but me?
Rarity couldn't help but giggle softly at this scene.
Well, thinking about it, I suppose it was very obvious to every pony else, even if I'm still trying to take it all in. Now wait a moment, though. Sweetie didn't know about Spike being enamored with me before. I wonder who told her. Oh, I can't worry about that now. Focus on this now, Sweetie Belle, she cut in with a smile, because this is the answer to all your problems.
Sweetie Belle beamed with a big smile, which was then replaced with a frown of confusion when Rarity levitated a pen and a small square of paper in front of her.
Huh? I don't get it. It's fairly simple, Rarity explained. While Spike is still in Canterlot until tomorrow, you are going to write and send him a note that says...
She whispered in Sweetie's ear. Her cheeks immediately flushed.
Once Spike returns home, he'll be in an air of confusion because he'll have discovered that some pony in Ponyville loves him. Then, it'll be a much greater opportunity to get out there and... More subtly, mind you. Tell him how you feel.
She let Sweetie take the pen and paper in her hooves.
I don't know, sis,
said Sweetie.
I'm afraid. Would you like me to write it out for you, then?
Sweetie silently nodded.
Very well, then.
Rarity quickly wrote a message on the paper, and then proceeded to slide it into an envelope.
Now, all we need to do is make sure this gets to Spike. How are you going to get it to him before the end of the week?
Sweetie asked.
Don't worry,
Rarity said, as she put the envelope in her saddlebag and opened the front door.
I know just the mare for the job. I was going to go out for a stroll anyway, and I'll get this delivered while I'm there. Fear not, Sweetie Belle. Hey, sis, can I take this dress off now? Oh, yes, of course. Get that silly thing off as soon as you can.
After she left, Sweetie Belle went up to her room, pulled off the dress, and sat onto her bed. Tears rose from her eyes again, but they were more tears of happiness.
Everything's going to be all right after all, she mused. Spike and I, it's going to work.
And well, I just wanted to make sure that everything was all right with her, said Cheerilee, as she and Rarity walked down the streets of Ponyville Square together.
Thank you for telling me about this, Cheerilee,
said Rarity.
Now I see why she seemed oh so upset when she came home. I've already talked to her, though. It's a personal issue, but we're working on it now.
Well, that's good to hear. I was just worried about her, that's all, said Cheerilee. She started to separate from Rarity.
Oh, and Rarity. Yes?
I think Sweetie Belle is very lucky to have a sister like you who cares for her so much. She finally left to go shopping at the market. A small tear ran down Rarity's cheek.
What a touching gesture. Now, let's see. I've already sent the letter to be delivered to Spike, but I still need to talk to some pony else about her infatuation, because frankly, I don't trust myself to help plan her next course of action anymore. But who else can I confide in? Twilight and Spike are still in Canterlot. Applejack is usually busy bucking apples at this time of day. Rainbow Dash is probably not the best pony to seek for love advice. That just leaves Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy. However, I haven't seen either of them in several days now. No pony I've talked to seems to have seen mane or tail of Pinkie Pie at all. And the last I saw of Fluttershy was after she helped me, carrying groceries a few days ago, and then flew off. Wait, why does it seem like every pony is disappearing on me? There's no reason for them to, unless...
Rarity gasped loudly.
Oh, no!
She raised her hoof and took a small whiff.
Maybe it is the perfume after all. I must be repelling all of my friends. Oh, I have to get to the spa immediately.
She started to make a dash towards the spa, but then she suddenly collided with another running pony, and they both tumbled down.
Hey now!
Rarity shouted, getting up.
You need to watch where you're walking, you... Pinkie Pie? Rarity!
Pinkie Pie responded.
Thank goodness I found you,
they both said simultaneously.
I really, really need your help with something.
What? You need my help?
Let me go first. My problem is more important.
No, mine is. No, mine.
It's about Sweetie Belle.
They both covered their mouths at the same time, and then they both started to laugh. Rarity spoke first.
Wait, you came to talk to me about Sweetie Belle, Pinkie? What were you going to say?
Pinkie gasped.
Oh no, never! I am not going to ruin another secret this time! Pinkie Pie, is this about her affection towards Spike? Oh, well, that's a relief,
Pinkie said cheerily.
Because that's what I was going to tell you, but it was also the secret I was needed to keep, so I couldn't tell you, but I wanted to tell you even though I couldn't, and now I don't have to because you already know. Well, it's a good thing I bumped into you then, because you see,
But Pinkie silenced her by putting her hoof into Rarity's mouth.
Not another word, Rarity, because I have the perfect plan.
She whispered her plan into Rarity's ear. Rarity experienced mixed reactions of intrigue, confusion, excitement, and finally, jubilation.
Why, Pinkie, that plan is surprisingly clever, she excitedly noted. But are you sure that it'll work? As sure as I'm pink, which I am, or at least I hope I still am. I'll check in the mirror later, but for now, let's get moving, Rarity, because we need to stop talking and start planning.
Come on, Spike, Twilight urged. You need to start packing now. After all, you need to wake up and be ready to take the train back to Ponyville at the very crack of dawn. I know, said Spike. He got up off of his bed and started tossing things behind him into his suitcase. He had a glum look on his face the whole time he did it. Twilight watched him for a while, and then she finally felt compelled to speak.
It was a good thing that we remembered Hearts and Hooves Day, she said. I'm really glad that we were able to catch up with all our old friends and give them something special. Remember when Moondancer just stared at me and said, "Who are you and where's the real Twilight Sparkle?" She giggled.
Yeah, Spike answered flatly.
Spike, is something wrong? She asked. You haven't been yourself ever since you woke up this morning, and you've been distant the entire day. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, he answered. I'm just thinking, is all.
Oh.
She went back to watching him, until he packed up his snow globe of Canterlot off the nightstand and tossed it behind him. It was about to miss the suitcase and smash straight onto the floor. However, Twilight predicted the ornament's trajectory, and she made a dive to catch the falling snow globe with her magic just in time.
Spike, you need to be more careful, she scolded. You almost smashed your favorite snow globe.
Huh? Spike replied, turning around. Oh, sorry.
Spike, are you sure you're all right? Is there anything you want to talk about?
He contemplated for a minute, and then he fully turned around towards her.
I can see that sad look in his eyes, Twilight thought to herself. I wonder what's wrong.
Actually, Twilight, there is something. You see, ever since last night, I've been thinking really hard about something, and I think I'm ready to ask you a big question, because there's just one thing I really need to know.
Go ahead,
she cheerfully replied, pleased that Spike was being so open to her.
I'm all ears.
Twilight,
does Rarity love me back?
Her eyes snapped open, and her smile flipped into a frown, as she dropped the snow globe. The loud clunk it made onto the floor contrasted against the otherwise eerie silence in the room.
What?
Rarity, you know how I have a crush on her, right? Twilight nodded, her face still in shock.
Something else has come up, and I just gotta know this, Twilight. Does she love me back? Please, tell me.
Twilight turned away from him and stared out at the window. The room was silent for a minute or two. Spike almost wanted to break the silence, but eventually it was Twilight that did.
Spike,
she said softly.
There are some things that I was going to wait to tell you until you were older.
Spike remained silent.
Most children develop crushes on adult ponies as they get to know them, and believe that their love will eventually be reciprocated, and that they've found their lifelong soulmate. But the truth is... Oh, Spike, I really don't want to have to be the one to tell you this.
Please, Twilight, Spike pleaded. Just tell me.
The truth is...
She turned around again, and Spike finally saw that her eyes were full of tears.
Their love is usually unrequited, and is eventually outgrown.
Spike sat down on the bed, starting to feel a great pain in his heart. Well, this is it. That's the answer I was expecting, but why does it still hurt so much?
I'm so sorry, Spike. The only way you're going to get a fully honest answer is to ask Rarity herself. But as for what I think...
She hesitated. but Spike gestured for her to keep going.
She most likely sees you as just a friend, Spike, and nothing more.
The room was silent again. Spike had a blank expression on his face as he stared down to the floor.
Spike?
I'm fine. It's okay, Twilight. I guess that's the answer I kind of expected. I mean, really, could you imagine a dragon and a pony ending up together anyway? He mused, giggling a little.
Well, don't give up the battle so fast,
Twilight said, starting to giggle herself.
I've read about pony-dragon relationships before, and they're not as uncommon as you think.
She started to leave, but before exiting the room, she turned around.
You want to know something, Spike?
What?
In my honest opinion, it's not so much a species difference, but an age difference that separates the two of you.
And then she walked out. Spike ran over to his nightstand and opened the shelf. The 2 drawings were there, but this time he only pulled out one. Sweetie Belle's.
Whoa!
Suddenly, Spike heard a loud noise behind him, and shards of glass landed on the floor in front of him. He quickly turned around to see a certain wall-eyed gray Pegasus lying on the floor, the bedroom window behind her completely shattered. Dozens of letters poured out from her mailbag.
Ow! Always a rough landing, huh?
Oh, hey, Ditsy-Do, said Spike, going over to help her up and gather her mail.
What are you doing here? Did you fly all the way here from Ponyville?
You bet, she enthusiastically replied.
I didn't break anything this time, did I? Horse feathers, she said, when she looked behind her. That's the 4th window this week. I'm always getting the flight path wrong. I knew I should have accounted for the change of wind speed around Canterlot.
Spike just rolled his eyes as she continued rambling. Despite appearances, Ditsy-Do was actually a very intelligent pony, much like Twilight, and a frequent visitor to the library. But she was also soft-spoken around ponies she wasn't well acquainted with, so other ponies mostly remembered her for her extreme clumsiness and goofy appearance, as well as her love of muffins. Hey, Ditsy, Spike said, interrupting her thinking. Do you have mail for me or something?
Oh, yes, I almost forgot.
She began sifting through all the mail that Spike had handed back to her.
Let's see now. No. Here it is.
She handed Spike a letter. He drew back, however, when he grabbed it and noticed there was no return address.
Say, Ditsy, who's this letter from?
Sorry, can't say, she replied, slipping her mailbag back on.
The pony who gave that to me told me not to tell you who it's from. Anyway, I gotta fly. Big muffin sale at the Sugar Cube Corner today. Can't miss it. Bye, Spike.
See ya, Ditsy, he called out. Tell Dinky I said hi. Turning his attention back to the letter, he quickly opened the envelope and pulled out the small piece of paper.
Huh? Hey, I know this handwriting.
The message on the paper was written in a very distinct black cursive handwriting, and it said only one thing.
I love you?
Chapter 9. The 2 Invitations. The 4th day.
Oh, it's okay, Rarity,
said Fluttershy, as the 2 of them walked down Ponyville Square together.
I totally understand, and you know that I'm always happy to give my friends some advice. I know you are,
Rarity responded, hoisting up the saddlebag she was carrying.
And that's why you're the element of kindness, and also my very best friend.
Fluttershy blushed in modesty.
Besides, Sweetie Belle did say she had talked to you already, so I knew I could confide in you without the awkward explanations. Yeah, I felt so sad for her when I saw her looking upset in the park, and she seemed so worried and confused when she came to talk to me,
Fluttershy reflected.
I'm really glad that you're helping her work it out, though. I thought she was going to be afraid to talk to you. Well, she was, and to be honest, she had good reason to be, said Rarity, a hint of remorse in her eyes. I still feel so bad that I put her through that pressure. Oh, it wasn't your fault, Rarity, Fluttershy assured, putting her hoof on her friend's shoulder. We all make mistakes. Rarity chuckled and returned her gesture. You see? You always have the right things to say. Who can ever remain in doubt around you, Fluttershy? I know, she replied. She frowned aside herself, though. There is one pony who still can. So, are we still up for the spa? Fluttershy asked. I've really been looking forward to our get-together. You see, Wait a minute, said Rarity, suddenly whipping around to Fluttershy. Did I really schedule a get-together at the spa today? But it's Thursday. I thought we usually meet up in the weekends. Yeah, don't you remember? You told me last week that you had a lot of orders to fill over the week, and that we should have a little spa date on Thursday. Oh, dear, said Rarity, looking down at the ground. She rattled her brain in deep thought. I'm sorry, Fluttershy, but I already made some plans this morning. I'm afraid the spa date will have to be cancelled. Fluttershy's face dropped, and her lip began to quiver. Are you sure, Rarity? She responded, sounding immensely disappointed. Because it's just that this spa date is all I've been thinking about the past few days. I was really hoping that I could... She slowly grew quieter. Talk to you about something. Why? Is something wrong? Said Rarity, seriously concerned. Well, no. Not exactly. It's just that Oh, never mind. It's all right. She meekly started to walk the other way, back towards her cottage. I'm sorry, Fluttershy, said Rarity. Maybe another time. Yeah, she quietly replied. Rarity watched her leave, still with a look of concern on her face. But then she whipped back around and looked at the big clock. Oh, heavens! It's almost 8 o'clock! I need to meet Pinkie at the corner right away! She sprinted as fast as she could to the Sugar Cube corner and knocked on the door. Pinkie, are you in there? Pinkie Pie suddenly burst open the double doors at the top, startling Rarity. Hey, Rarity! You're just in time! Ready to get started? Oh, Pinkie, please don't startle me like that again, said Rarity, clutching her heart. But yes, I've got all the supplies. Shall we start setting things up and getting everything ready? Woo, woo, or something. The Ponyville Express proudly chugged down the line as it began to pull in at the train station, carrying in tow several passengers from Equestria's capital city. Several citizens of Ponyville gathered at the platform, eagerly waiting for their friends, family, and/or associates that were about to depart from the train. But amongst them was a small white filly, standing at the back of the crowd and donning one of Rarity's large and old, unused sun hats that she had borrowed from her older sister, this time with her permission. It was mostly light salmon, but with a yellow band and a blue rose tucked inside. She also sported her dark green overcoat, the one she typically wore in the winter. Coupled with the sun hat, which she had tipped forward to hide her face, Sweetie Belle was completely unrecognizable from a distance. The doors to the train opened after it pulled in, and the passengers all began to step out and greet those who were waiting for them there. Many of them were clearly denizens of Canterlot, coming to Ponyville for their own reasons. But there were also a handful of ponies that were naturally residents of Ponyville, coming back from a visit or extended stay at Canterlot. One of them was the small dragon Spike, dragging along his heavy suitcase with considerable effort. There he is, Sweetie thought. Need a hand there? Said a teenage bellhop, clad in a red uniform. I could carry that bag all the way over to the library if you'd like. Sure, why not? Answered Spike. If Celestia insisted that you come with me on the ride back, I guess I might as well let you do something.
The bellhop hoisted the bag on his back and staggeringly started to carry it with him on his way out of the station.
No problem. I'll get this over there in a jiff.
After he was out of sight, Spike went to sit down on a nearby bench and started thinking to himself, as the ponies on the platform all started to scatter.
I wonder if he saw the note yet. Should I go over there and talk to him? Should I tell him it's from me? Oh, this is all too much pressure. Where's Rarity when I need her?
But she stopped thinking and drew her attention back to Spike when she noticed him pull out something from his pocket. It was the note. The simple note that Rarity wrote for her and sent all the way out to him. The note that had just 3 simple words, written in black cursive ink. Sweetie gasped when she saw him pull out the note. Then a wide smile stretched across her face, and her eyes grew big, when she glimpsed Spike starting to smile as he gazed at the note. She started jumping up in excitement.
Yes, it worked. He got the note, and he's smiling. Now Spike knows that some pony loves him, and I can tell him that it's me, that I'm the one who loves him. Yes, 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 yes!
She shouted into the skies. The whole station grew quiet then. When she looked around her, she realized that every pony was staring at her. Are you all right, little miss? One of the stallions waiting in line at the ticket gate asked.
Yeah,
She answered awkwardly.
uh-oh. I hope Spike didn't see that.
She glanced over to Spike, but to her relief, he seemed too invested in the mystery of his special note to have noticed her.
Thank goodness,
She said quietly, still blushing at having made such a scene.
maybe I should get out of here.
She proceeded to walk away, but she still flashed a beaming smile and squinted her eyes in absolute giddiness. Meanwhile, Spike was still looking at the note, and he sighed lovingly.
I love you too, Rarity.
The vibrant atmosphere of the Ponyville market was complemented by the happily bouncing Sweetie Belle, still smiling with a face of absolute satisfaction and euphoria. She was still wearing Rarity's salmon sun hat, but she no longer had it tipped over her face, and so she was able to show off her dark and light purple mane, having been glossed that morning with help from Rarity. Her winter overcoat had been tucked along with a bag of bits from Rarity into her saddlebags, which flew up and down in rhythm with the fillies bouncing.
Morning, Bon Bon, she
called.
How was your Hearts and Hooves Day yesterday? Good morning, Sweetie Belle,
Bon Bon called back from a table outside the sugar cube corner.
It was just splendid. Thanks for asking. I'll tell Lyra you said hi. Hey, Roseluck. Thanks for the flowers the other day.
Oh, no problem, Sweetie Belle, said Roseluck at her flower stand.
Happy belated Hearts and Hooves Day. How are your carrots today, Golden Harvest? It looks like they're almost ready to sprout,
responded Golden Harvest, tending to her carrot garden.
Thanks for asking, Sweetie Belle. I really like your new main-style minuet.
Thanks, Sweetie Belle.
I just think that we should, said Apple Bloom. Just to see if she's all right.
Yeah, I guess you're right, Scootaloo replied. The two of them were walking down the road to Carousel Boutique yet again, both looking intimately concerned. However, Sweetie Belle appeared and bounced along behind them.
Hey guys, what's up?
They both turned around in surprise. Sweetie Belle?
Hey, nice sun hat, Scootaloo said awkwardly. We were just about to come over and see if you were all right.
Are ya? Apple Bloom asked, sounding a little confused.
Well, of course I am, she answered. Why wouldn't I be?
Well, we weren't sure what to think after that outburst you made yesterday, said Scootaloo.
Oh, right,
said Sweetie, remembering now what had happened at school yesterday.
That was... Something happened a few days ago that made me scream like that, but it doesn't matter anymore. Everything's fine now.
Are you sure?
Yeah, and...
She hesitated for a moment, but then she sighed.
I just wanted to say that I'm really sorry about the way I've been acting the past week. I've just been dragging you down ever since we tried to run that paper route, and making you guys worry when I kept getting upset and yelling at every pony.
Scootaloo and Applebloom were both astonished at her apology, as tears started dripping down her eyes.
I wouldn't be surprised if you guys didn't want me to be a Cutie Mark Crusader anymore, but can you at least forgive me and still be my friends?
But much to her surprise, Scootaloo and Applebloom both ran up and hugged her. She lowered her sun hat and smiled as her cheeks flushed again.
Of course we can forgive you, Sweetie Belle, said Scootaloo. You'll always be our friend, no matter what. And once a Cutie Mark Crusader, always a Cutie Mark Crusader,
Applebloom added. Sweetie Belle returned the hugs and began crying tears of joy.
Thanks. You girls are the best friends ever.
After they broke away from their hug, Sweetie excitedly piped up again.
So, do you guys want to go out crusading for our Cutie Marks this weekend?
Totally, said Scootaloo. There's still a lot of cool ideas I had from our last meeting that we never got to try.
Actually, I was just thinking,
Applebloom chimed in.
Now that Sweetie Belle's back with us, do you think we should go back to Vinyl Scratch's studio and try to get our special talents in music again?
Scootaloo and Sweetie both pondered this suggestion.
Nah,
Sweetie eventually responded. Yeah, what SB said. That just sounds lame. You know what I think we might have a future in? White water rafting! The three of them all laughed, finally together as a trio of great friends again. Thanks for the help, said Spike, as he opened the library door for the bellhop that had assisted him with the bags. Hey, no problem, he replied. Well, I gotta catch the train back. See you around in Canterlot again sometime. Bye, said Spike, as he watched the bellhop leave. As he did, however, he finally noticed something odd in the yard. Huh? Hey, what's that over there? Curiously, he walked over to the sign in front of the library, and was in for quite a sight. The blue roses that Sweetie Belle brought with her to the library, and then subsequently crushed in her anger, were still smacked against the sign. The flowers, which had already been beaten up, had long since wilted, and were now starting to crumble as Spike peeled them off. The bouquet's wrapping paper was also starting to erode in the grassy dew, but Spike noticed a small slip of paper still tucked inside of it. It was crinkled up, and the text was splotching, but it was still legible enough that Spike could make out what it said. For Spike, he read aloud, perplexed. He started scratching his head. Now, who would send me flowers? But his mind was pulled away as he noticed Fluttershy walking up towards the library.
Oh, hello, Spike, she said. I didn't know you were back in Ponyville already.
Yeah, he replied. I just got off the train this morning, and I'm about to get settled in again.
Oh, how nice. Well, Rarity canceled out on our spa plans this morning,
she explained, with a hint of sadness in her voice.
So, since I had nothing else to do, I decided to come by the library and make sure Aloysius and little Pee-wee were all right again.
Well, thanks, Fluttershy, said Spike. But you don't need to worry about that. I already checked on both of them while Celestia's bellhop was bringing my bag in. They're fine.
Oh, okay then. Well, it's great to see you back again. Why don't you come by my cottage later and I'll fix you some tea?
Sounds great, he responded. See you later, Fluttershy. But just as he was about to turn around, he caught sight of the flowers. Hey, Fluttershy?
Yes?
Do you know anything about these roses here? He held up the decaying remains of the roses and the note that came with them.
Oh my goodness!
Fluttershy exclaimed, rushing back over. She examined one of the withered flowers in her hoof.
What happened? Who would be so cruel as to crush up these roses and leave them here to rot?
Well, I think they came from Roseluck's flower stand, because this is the kind of note that she always writes in her bouquets, and it says, "For Spike." Any idea who might have sent them here?
Well, Not really, Fluttershy answered meekly. Sorry.
That's okay. He drooped his head down in disappointment.
Although, I think these are actually Rarity's favorite color of rose.
Spike's head shot back up. Pinkie Pie was humming a soft tune to herself as she laid a tray of muffins into the oven. It was her way of making time fly while she helped the cakes fill their orders on a busy Thursday. After she set the time on the oven, however, her tune stopped, and she began to look somewhat mellow. Giving a sad sigh, she got to work kneading the cookie dough that was already on the counter. Eventually, Rarity stepped into the living room.
All right, Pinkie, she said. I got the blue flowers all hung up, and the loft is looking most excellent. I think this is going to turn out smashing. Huh?
Said Pinkie Pie.
Oh, yeah, that's great, Rarity.
Rarity immediately abandoned her smile.
Pinkie Pie, is something wrong? It isn't like you to look so down in the muck. I'm fine, Rarity. It's just, I feel really bad,
Pinkie quietly admitted.
I ruined a friend's trust. I broke their promise. Whatever do you mean, darling? Sweetie Belle, she muttered.
Rarity's head perked up in curiosity.
You see, a few days ago, she came to me for advice. She wanted to ask me about Spike and how she had the super hots for him. She even thought to go to Pinkie Pie before coming to me?
Rarity thought.
My word! Just how much was Sweetie Belle afraid of my overreaction that she didn't even consider confiding with me, if at all. And then I was so excited when she finally told me about it that what? That I accidentally broke the promise I made to Spike and told her that Spike had a crush on you,
Pinkie finally exclaimed, bawling.
He trusted me, and I ruined his secret. I broke my pinky swear.
Rarity tried to gather what Pinkie had just said. She also looked as if something of interest had caught her eye.
You made a pinky swear to Spike that you wouldn't tell any pony he was enamored by me?
Pinkie's eyes went wide.
Ah!
Rarity was blown to the wall by Pinkie Pie's sudden scream.
Pinkie Pie! What in Equestria was that for? Why did you just...
But before she could finish her sentence, Pinkie ran up to her and grabbed her by the shoulders.
Don't you see, Rarity? It's happened again,
Pinkie loudly stated.
I just blabbed out Spike's secret again, and I wasn't even thinking about it just like before. And it's not just that. When I bumped into you at the park, I had to really try not to break the promise that I made to Sweetie Belle about not telling any pony that she was all goo-goo gaga for Spike. Why does this keep happening, Rarity? Why am I doing this? I never break my pinky promises.
She started shaking Rarity's shoulders violently.
This just isn't right.
Well, said Rarity, feeling overwhelmed and slightly dizzy. She pushed Pinkie's hooves away gently and went back down to all fours.
You're right. It is significantly outside of your character to thoughtlessly break a promise or swear you made to a friend in a casual conversation. I suppose. Perhaps it's been a busy week at the Sugar Cube Corner, and you're just under a lot of stress? I know I get incredibly racked and start behaving rather oddly when I've become too overwhelmed by my commissions.
Pinkie responded.
Maybe. Or maybe some pony else is behind all of this. Now, Pinkie, I really don't think that... Yes, I bet some pony is lurking in the shadows, pulling the strings so that everything happens according to his or her master plan. Maybe a mysterious new foe is plotting to destroy Ponyville, or maybe an old enemy is returning, seeking to plot out his revenge.
Pinkie made an uncharacteristically evil grin at the end of her rant, one which made Rarity feel inexplicably uneasy.
Pinkie Pie? Nah, that just sounds silly, said Pinkie Pie,
suddenly reverting back to her usual cheery self.
Maybe you're right, Rarity. Maybe I am just a little pooped out from all of the business here. Oh well.
She went back to kneading the dough, humming a happy tune once more. Rarity was still against the wall, confused about what she had just witnessed.
That was most odd. It's not like Pinkie to propose such a dark theory. But that's not all I'm worried about. Maybe it was just my imagination. But back there, when she was talking about Spike's secret, did her eyes turn gray for a second?
Thanks, come again, said Roseluck, as she handed the bouquet of yellow roses to a customer. He paid his bits and gladly left. Just then, Spike came running up to her stand.
Hi, Spike. What's shaking?
Hey, Roseluck, he said, still trying to catch his breath. I was just wondering something. Has anyone around here asked you for a bouquet of blue roses in the past few days? Well, a lot of ponies actually, since Hearts and Hooves Day was yesterday, she answered. Hang on, let me get my list of orders that were made. She reached into her shelves and started reading through some sheets of paper. Let's see now. She started reading off all the names. Thunder Lane, Blossomforth. I think Heartstrings stopped by wanting to surprise Bonbon. I also have orders here from the Maestro, Lemony Snickets, my friend Daisy, Bright Blues, some strange pony with a tie who kept calling himself the Doctor, Sweetie Belle. Sweetie Belle? And, oh yeah, I think Rarity swung by a while ago asking for them too. Spike was flustered now. So, did those flowers come from Sweetie Belle or Rarity? I think that's everyone. So, Spike hesitated to ask, but finally he pulled up the crumpled note from Sweetie's bouquet. So, did any of those customers you mentioned happen to ask you to write this? Roseluck gazed at the note and reflected on her past customers. Oh yeah, now I remember. Blue roses, made out to you. Yep, those came from Sweetie Belle. Later that day, Rarity had arrived home from planning at the Sugar Cube Corner with Pinkie, and was now sewing a new dress on her machine to help ease her mind. Sweetie Belle promptly came into the house and went into Rarity's workroom, still eagerly bouncing up and down. She hung her sun hat on the rack near the door, set her saddlebags down, and ran up to her sister.
Hi, Rarity. Oh, goodness, Sweetie Belle, you startled me, said Rarity. But that's all right. How was your day today? Have you done something nice with all the bits I gave you already? Oh, did you see Spike? Yep, she answered. I watched him get off the train this morning. I didn't talk to him, though, because, well, I guess I'm a little nervous. He saw the note, though. Excellent. I did figure that you would still be a little nervous, said Rarity. She flashed a coy smirk. But I think the answer to your problems might come in 3, 2, 1.
A knock sounded at the door.
I'll get it.
A huge stream of confetti burst out in front of Rarity and Sweetie Belle when they opened the door. Pinkie Pie was there, adorning the same confetti popper outfit she wore when she once conducted a singing telegram in front of Applejack.
Oh, this is your singing telegram for you, for you. You see, I've arrived here with a message for you, for you.
She shot out 2 identical party invites which Rarity and Sweetie both caught from the air and began to read.
For there is a party happening. Where else but the Sugar Cube Corner? Not a big party, really, but just a casual soiree. This party is going on tomorrow afternoon. So bring a guest, bring 5 even. The sky's the limit. An RSVP and come and be our guest.
Good enough,
Wow, a party?
said Sweetie, excitedly looking over the invitation.
Can we go, Rarity? Huh? Can we? Well, you can certainly attend, Sweetie,
said Rarity, trying to hide a smile.
However, I don't think I myself will be able to make it. I have an appointment at the spa tomorrow afternoon. I'm really sorry, Pinkie.
Unseen to Sweetie, she gave a wink to Pinkie, who then winked back.
Oh, it's okay, Rarity,
she cheerfully replied, taking back Rarity's invite.
I'm inviting all of our friends in Ponyville, so it won't spoil the fun if one pony can't make it. You'll still come, though, right, Sweetie Belle? Can I?
Sweetie asked Rarity. She eagerly nodded.
Yes!
Come on then, Sweetums, said Rarity, nudging her inside. You'd best start getting ready for it.
Huh?
Replied Sweetie, confused.
But I thought Pinkie said it was just a casual party.
Oh, of course it is, but still, a lady must keep up her appearances. Just go inside and I'll be there in a second. After Sweetie went back inside, Rarity and Pinkie winked at each other again, and they both giggled.
So bring a guest, bring 5 even, the sky's the limit, and RSVP and come and be our guest.
But the last note was ruined by Pinkie's exasperated coughing.
Wow, that's a really hard note to recite more than once.
She handed an invite to Spike, having just performed her singing telegram at the library's doorstep. A party, huh? Said Spike, reading the invite. Wait, what did you say the special occasion was?
No occasion,
Pinkie responded.
It's just a casual party for friends. It's been at least a week since the last time he threw a party, and that's far too long for any pony to go on without some partying in their lives.
Well, I'll definitely be there, said Spike. I just finished tidying up the whole library, and I don't have any other plans for tomorrow afternoon.
Great! See you in the Party Central tomorrow afternoon.
Spike waved goodbye, but drew a look of confusion when he heard Pinkie softly giggling to herself as she left. Just Pinkie Pie being Pinkie Pie, I guess. The skies were painted a brilliant orange as Celestia's sun slowly set over the horizon again, and the lone filly was walking down the meadow path by herself.
Spike, I love you. No, that won't work. Hey, Spike, we're really great friends, and I was just wondering if you wanted to be my special sun pony, or dragon, I mean. No, that just sounds lame. Say, Spike, you know that note that you got? Well, guess what? It's me. I'm the one who...
She let out a loud grunt.
I just don't know what to say. I'm so nervous about this. What if he doesn't like me back? Oh, I thought I wasn't going to be thinking about that anymore. But I just keep thinking it anyway. What if he still likes Rarity instead? What if he rejects me? What if he doesn't want to be my friend anymore?
Another loud grunt was let out. Howdy, Sweetie Belle. Been having some rough times lately, I heard? Sweetie turned around to see that she had been walking past Sweet Apple Acres, and Applejack was there, leaning against a fence.
Oh, hey, Applejack,
said Sweetie, walking over to the fence.
How much did you hear?
Oh, not much, she responded. But A.B. told me yesterday that y'all have been in a real sour mood the past week. Everything okay? You and Rarity ain't a-squalling again, are ya?
No,
said Sweetie.
But it's kind of hard to explain.
Go on, then.
Well, you see...
She decided to use her old excuse again.
It's just that one of my friends has this crush on a really handsome pony. But there's something wrong because that pony also has a crush on my friend's sister.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I'm just not sure. What do you think my friend should do?
Applejack stopped leaning over the fence and stood on all fours again. Well, I've never been one for romance and love and all that junk. However, I know a thing or two about honesty, because that's what your friend needs, S.B. She needs to be honest with herself, and with the pony she's a-spotting out, and tell him how she feels. Even if he doesn't like her back, she can rest assured knowing that she spoke with her heart, and those two can still be friends.
Wow,
said Sweetie.
That's amazing advice. Honesty. Yeah. Well, I'll go tell my friend about what you said, and then maybe it'll work out. Thanks for the advice, Applejack.
No problem, Applejack replied. Oh, hey, Sweetie Belle.
Yeah?
Honestly, don't worry yourself so much, she said, giving a gentle smile. You just wait and see. Spike'll come around. Sweetie Belle nodded and continued walking down the path.
Yeah, maybe I should just be honest and tell Spike how I really feel. No matter what, We'll still be friends and... Wait, how did Applejack know it was Spike?
Applejack watched her walk away, and after she was gone, she leaned against the fence again and scoffed to herself.
That's some gosh darn tootin' advice there, Applejack.
She caught sight of the pony, Caramel, whom was trotting down the path in front of her off the farm, whistling a small tune.
Evening, Applejack,
he called.
Now why can't y'all use any of that advice yourself?
Sweetie was still walking down the path back to Ponyville when she noticed something in front of her.
Uh-oh, here comes Spike. I better hide. I still don't feel ready to talk to him just yet. I haven't even thought about what to say.
She quickly hid in a nearby bush as Spike came walking down the path, clutching the anonymous note in his claw.
He's still looking at the note. Oh, this is so great. Wow, I forgot how cute he looks when he's just walking along like that. Oh, Spike.
So, you really do love me too, huh, Rarity?
Yes, Spike. Yes, Wait, what? Rarity?
At least, I hope this is you. It is your handwriting.
What? But the note. It was supposed... Oh, man. Rarity!
She ducked out of the bush, unseen by Spike, running back towards home with an angry look on her face. But does Sweetie Belle love me back too? Spike wondered.
Rarity! Whoa, oh!
Sweetie's sudden yell startled Rarity right out of the chair, and the dress she was stitching was torn apart in the wake.
Sweetie Belle, didn't Mother ever teach you not to sneak up on other ponies like that?
Said Rarity. She got up and presented the torn fabric to her sister.
Look what you've done to my new garment! Don't you try to talk your way out of this!
Sweetie snapped, grabbing the fabric and tossing it away.
This was your plan all along, wasn't it? Just what are you talking about? The note! She screeched. That note that you told me to write for Spike, but then asked to write it for me? You knew he was going to think it was your hoof writing, didn't you? Oh dear, Rarity replied. You mean Spike believes the note to have been written by me as a gesture of requited feelings? Well, that's... Don't act so innocent. I see what's going on here now,
Sweetie yelled in Rarity's face.
You love Spike too, and once you found out that I had a crush on him, you tried to make sure that Spike was only going to hear it from you. How dare you? Sweetie Belle, that is very unladylike to make such unjustified accusations. You know what else is unladylike? Tricking your own sister for your own selfish needs.
She was starting to cry.
I trusted you, Rarity, and then you used me. I was your pawn. Sweetums, you weren't a pawn. Where did you even learn that word?
Asked Rarity, putting a hoof on Sweetie's shoulder.
Don't call me Sweetums,
snapped Sweetie, swatting her hoof away.
Because guess what, sister? We aren't sisters anymore. Again!
She dashed up to her room as Rarity frantically followed her.
Sweetie, please, Rarity pleaded. It's not like that. If you would just listen to me. No, I don't want to talk to you ever again. Good night, unsister.
And then she slammed the door right in Rarity's face. Instantly, Rarity started sobbing.
What have I done? What have I done?
This ends Part 3.